What's in the box? Well, I'll tell you what's in the box. It's plastic crack, it's overpriced resin, it's potential and fun. It's everything the vampires have to offer Bloodbowl. So let's not dive in, let's dig in. Welcome to basically Bloodbowl. And it's here, the Vampire Bloodbowl team. So today we have the GW and, rather belatedly, the Forgeworld releases for the new Vampire team. And we're going to get our hands on the items and see them a bit closer up. So you may be sitting on the fence wondering if the team is right for you, worth the money, or perhaps you're holding off for a week or two. So let's see what you get for your money. First up, out of the box, we have the pitch. And the immediate interest for me is the conditions for the two sides. Those two sides are the normal Vampire Castle side and the Raging Inferno pitch. So the normal side is that of a great ballroom used by the Vampire dynasty that reside there. This comprises of a hard stone floor. However, running up the middle is a 5x18 square long lavish red carpet. Now, I love this ruling, as not only do you have the +1 modifier for the hard stone tiles to your armor roll to signify that rough landing, you have this carpeted option up through the middle, which is the opposite, giving you a softer landing, a -1 modifier to your armor roll. So basically, that central route, which will be better defended, is going to give you a better chance of making those armor rolls, with a 2-number swing to making that roll, as opposed to that off on the flanks. It's something completely new for the pitches, splitting into areas like this, and it adds an element of tactics and decision making to the match. And then, as if that wasn't enough, we have the other side, which, when at least one touchdown is scored within the first half, the crowd go crazy and a candle chandelier is brought down, setting a light to the carpet. Now, this comes with a crazy ruling. Basically, that friendly middle area now flips on its head. Any player who begins their activation there must take an agility test. And that's for any action, be it movement, blocking, blitzing. So those low agility units are going to really be at a disadvantage here. It's not that you can't place them there as roadblocks, but any action requires an agility roll, and on a failure they need to make an armor roll, a failure resulting in them being placed prone and an injury roll made. So massively beneficial to high edge teams. There is no turnover on failing an agility roll unless you have the ball. So this is a great pitch, a game of two halves if you would, something completely different to the other 17, 18 or so other pitches out there. And of course there is the freedom to just ignore the rules and play it with no conditions because, well, let's have a look at it. It's a beautiful board. Now, you must excuse the state of my hands. I'm full on manual labour at the minute, and even hands that do dishes cannot get ingrained out. Apologies if you take offence. So here it is. My little hobby space under the stairs cannot accommodate the whole thing, but you can see the level of detail with little cobwebs on the corners. You've got the carpeted section up through the middle, and just feast your eyes on the light shining in through some grand arched window at the side. It just looks stunning, quite possibly the best pitch in my opinion, and so different too. And on the reverse we have the Inferno pitch, where, and you can see the chandelier that's falling in the centre to cause the fire, and you can see the areas ablaze. Just a truly wonderful pitch, definitely something unique, with great rules to boot. Next up, the Vampire team dice. They're in the box. And if we get them out, you can see that they are better than the example we saw in the reveal. The two-tone pattern is almost like a dark amber, and they look stunning. The D6 there with the little vampire symbol. I mean, I seem to be saying it again, but they may be my favourite dice set. I mean, definitely top 5. So, probably top out of all the sets that I own. I mean, that colour combination seems much darker than the usual two tones that you get. Just get the D16 out. Much the same. GW really knock it out of the park with these. Not essential to pick up, but if you're a fan of collecting dice or you're going all out for this new Vampire team, you won't be disappointed with these. We have the Spike magazine, and we'll have a quick look through the inside just to give you a sense of the contents, or if you don't know what a Spike magazine comprises of, then you'll see what it's all about. Again, not an essential purchase, but to collectors or guys concentrating on this Vampire release, it's a great one. There's the inside cover with painted models, names too: Sebastian Thrasio, Kristina Petrovna, Raul Kosmeska. Intro and team outline, all the positional information up here, traits and skills, stats. We see the cost too. Vargeise at 150, Vampires at 110, although interestingly the runner is 10,000 cheaper. And then there's the Bloodlust trait explored again in a bit more detail. Famous vampire teams, Draxfang, Firsters, Fluff and Law. Then we get to Luther von Drakenborg, the Count of Cool, and we get a full rundown of his stats: block, hypnotic gaze, loner 4+, regen and sidestep. He is, however, a whopping 340,000, which is a mammoth amount, almost to the point that you'll rarely see him featured on a vampire team. Stats, well, armor value of 10, passing 3+, agility 2+, strength 5, movement 6. That is really strong statistics. He is a really strong player. But again, I'd personally be put off by that big cost right there. Flick to Karina von Rice. She's 230,000, so just a little bit more expensive than Carla von Kill. Armor of 9, passing 4, adds 2 with strength 4, and a movement of 7. I like the tasty morsel rule, and she comes with Bloodlust 2+, dodge, hypnotic gaze, jump up, again, loner 4+, and regen. I personally have to see her play before giving a final verdict on where she sits compared to the other stars, but she looks very promising. There we have the Crimson Chalice Challenge, basically a randomised betting roll where if you complete your goal you earn an extra 25,000 gold, so not a bad device to add to each game, and there doesn't appear to be any drawbacks on failing the said wager. So for example, a roll of 8 will see you win if you don't concede a touchdown all match. Then there's a new inducement, the Wandering Hemomancer, who's basically a witch involving blood, giving you the chance each half to either move a player on the opposing team up to 3 spaces of your choosing, or have them hemorrhage blood everywhere, resulting in a casualty roll. Just a fun little option if you have the funds kicking about. The weather table is obviously different to normal, being that the game is being played indoors, but there's still the chance of wind from a gale blowing in, affecting passing, or a deafening downpour outside affecting your rerolls. Again, just some options to expand your game. Then the After Dark kickoff table, which has some interesting options. Wooden stakes on a roll of 11, seeing stakes smuggled onto the pitch, and a player from each team gaining the stab trait for the drive. Or the kickoff, downing the chandelier with possible injuries on poor dice rolls to those on the line of scrimmage. Again, some inventive ways to broaden and make each game unique. Then there's the optional balls provided. The bat ball, a representation of bats trying to drag the blood-soaked ball away, meaning that at the end of a turn, if the ball is on the ground, it will bounce as if carried slightly by the multiple bats. And the restrained Vargling ball, a ball made from a tied-up Vargling, a kind of miniature Vargeist, if you will. And with this, on a roll of 1, each turn in possession, the ball is dropped as the Vargling supposedly bites the ball carrier. There's some tips on running the team, a breakdown of players, suggested builds, and team development ideas, suggesting taking pro, guard, dodge, and block. So if you're struggling on knowing how to spend your SPP, this is a handy reference to give you some options on how to best evolve and better your team. Some setup advice for formations, specifically to playing with Bloodlust. Then we have the third and final star player, Ivan Deathshroud. Ivan is an armor 9, strength 4, adds 2, passing 5, movement 6 piece, so nothing special there. Costing 190,000, he has block, disturbing presence, juggernaut, loner 4+, regeneration, strip ball, and tackle. So I can see this as a handy player, not just for the vampire teams, but probably more necromantic and undead teams. Especially if you're hiring with a dwarven team up next. That Dwarven Scourge special with the ability to add a +2 modifier to a dwarf armor or injury roll made by Ivan is very handy, especially against hard to displace dwarves. Very much a plug and play star player for these sort of scenarios. Then we have the vampire team representations on the College of Death team. They keep their costs, but interestingly, it seems you can take up to 4 vampire runners as well as blitzers, and up to 2 Vargheists if you so wish, and can make the cost fit. Now, it's a very interesting choice for a College of Death team, and the great thing about Dungeon Bowl teams is that massive extra choice when it comes to constructing that team. The usual comic book story at the end, following the exploits of Bob Bifford, and part 2 of the team, including Duke Vladimir von Lorch, the Vargheist, as well as painted versions of the 3 star players. So that's your Spike magazine. Always an interesting companion to the team release. And then we have the box containing the team itself. The contents, as per normal, including instructions, bases, transfers, not too much excitement there, and then we have the sprues themselves. Some great detail on there. There's the alternative batwing arm for the thrower, little bits of stitching on the thrall's trousers. We can see the cloaks. And if we turn it over, there's the big coffin marker. Better look at some of the fronts of some of the bodies there. I mean, so much detail on these models. And here, as if by magic, we see what they look like when they're constructed. A bit of trimming left to do on some of these, but there's the thrower, full NFL pose, moving back to make that throw. The runner in full flow, really representing that speed. Interesting connection points on the cloak, hooked to the arms. The vampire blitzer in full action pose too, low to the ground. I mean, they look really stunning. Then a quick look at the thralls. My favourite bat-wielding lineman, and you can see that stitching detail up the legs, something I never noticed on the reveals. They look dishevelled versions of their former selves, and you can see the marks of the vampire masters on them all, be it on their necks or their arms. The worn away physique, a wonderful representation of the roles within the team, both on and off the pitch. And there's another look at the massive token, the bat in the coffin. You can see the little Varglings flanking it. And then in box number 2, we have the Forgeworld characters. There's Count Luther von Drachenburg, and I have to admit I wasn't overly impressed when the reveal went up, but he's more impressive here, imposing and commanding, that stride forwards. There's Ivan, one of the most frustrating models I think I've ever had the displeasure of putting together, with so many parts, big and small, to put together, so many pieces to tidy up, but he's together finally. And the little dwarven trophies on the back there, you can just see as he turns around, really match his character. Next up, Karina von Reis, the captain. She's got one nasty looking clawed left hand, a real weapon, and also a hat which comes in 2 bits and is equally as frustrating as Ivan to put together without gluing your hands to one another. And finally we have the Vargheist in all his glory. Now, he's bigger than I imagined he would be, and reminds me slightly like the Bloodspawn for Khorne. And what a model he is. I really can't wait to get to grips with him. And that, we've seen a lot. So that's all the pieces that make up the Blood Bowl Vampire release. I hope you enjoyed just looking through them with me. Next up will be completing the team and getting them painted. Somewhere in between, I want to get them on a normal pitch and just see how they operate. Test out some of those interesting tactics and theories I've come up with, and yeah, maybe come back to you with a bit of feedback. As always, thanks for watching and supporting the channel. Thank you for all those that have subscribed. It means a great deal. I'm truly overwhelmed by the support, comments and goodwill for, let's face it, one man crudely chucking videos onto his little channel. And with that, I hope to see you all in the next one. Ciao for now.